Hi guys, I got a new microphone, so hopefully this will improve sound quality on these videos. I wanted to say thank you for the overwhelming amount of love and support you guys showed yesterday after I posted the first video. It was amazing. A lot of new subscribers and people watching, and thank you so much for that. Before I get started today, I wanted to explain something that may occur due to the fact that, like I said, I have no editor and I don't know how to edit. I don't even have a computer. I'm doing this entirely on my phone. So something may happen from time to time that I'll explain now. Sometimes I'll be talking, and right in the middle of a sentence I will forget what I'm talking about. People who come to talks and classes, retreats that I give, book signings, they're used to this. Sometimes right in the middle of a sentence I will have to ask the audience, what were we just talking about? And it's gotten to the point where people know automatically. They can repeat it back to me, whatever we were just talking about, and sometimes it'll spark recognition and I'll be able to pick up where I left off. Other times I won't. But since there's no one here to remind me what I'm saying, it's just us, I may completely forget entirely and not be able to find my way back to it. I wanted to explain the reason for this. I spent almost a decade in solitary confinement. Not only was I in prison for about 20 years, but almost the last half of that I was in solitary confinement. We didn't realize until after I got out how profound the impact of solitary confinement on the human psyche is. We had no clue up until about 2 years ago, whenever I started working with a neurologist here in the city who wanted to do a study on me to see what the long-term effects of solitary confinement on the human mind are. She wanted to do like this revolutionary study that showed, sort of like how much the concussions were affecting the NFL athletes when no one even knew that it was happening. She wanted to kind of do the same thing and use me as a case study to show what solitary confinement does to the mind. One of the things it did, keep in mind that when I went to prison, I was still really young. I was a teenager. My brain was still forming. Due to being in that environment, my brain did not form in the way that other people's brains form. I didn't form some of the same connections that we take for granted out here, but I didn't know this until after I got out. For example, you don't see a lot of faces in solitary confinement. You don't hear a lot of other voices. So what happens is you start to lose things like facial recognition and voice recognition. I've reintroduced myself to the same person 2 or 3 times because I cannot retain faces. A lot of that also has to do with my short-term memory. My short-term memory is kind of devastated. Honestly, it doesn't affect me much. I don't care for the most part. It has actually led to me leading a very happy and productive life. But sometimes I will forget what I'm saying. And since I don't have an editor, you get what you get. Just explaining why that might happen. In the comments, a lot of you guys were talking about magic and wanting me to explain more about magic or asking questions about particular aspects of it. And we will go into that. We absolutely will. But I realize for most people, these kind of concepts and ideas are going to be completely new. So I want to kind of ease into it and give people who haven't been practicing some of these techniques for a while to kind of, put their feet in the water and get their toes wet a little before you dump something that will seem complicated on them. And I want to give people also things that anyone can use. Like yesterday I was talking about how one of the things that helped me survive in solitary confinement was cleaning, because it helps you to establish a schedule. At this same time every day you're going to do the exact same thing. And for me, that, like I said, I live a very monastic sort of life. So for me, when I'm cleaning, I'm usually cleaning really old school with a bowl of water filled with hydrogen peroxide and thieves oil, and I use a rag and I get down and I scrub the floor on my hands and knees. And I know like what day of the week it is determines what room I work on. But it helps me to maintain that schedule. Another thing that was really helpful for me in there, and is also really helpful out here, that anybody can use, anybody can do, is exercise. You know, even when you're talking about magic, or when you're talking about life, or whatever it is, the healthier your body is, the easier tasks out here are going to be. The healthier your body is, the more chi, the more energy flows through you, which is what you're working with when you're working with magic. You're essentially doing Western versions of energy exercises. The healthier your body is, the more energy it circulates and pushes through. For me, when I was in prison, I could take exactly 2 steps from the back of my cell to the front. So I had just enough room to do jumping jacks, sit-ups, push-ups, run in place, calisthenics. After I got out here, I started going to the gym and using all sorts of equipment and lifting weights. And once the lockdown happened, all the gyms closed in New York. So what I started doing then, and I realized when I started doing this how much I loved doing it, that I'm probably not even going to go back to the gym once this is over, because I like my workout routine here even better. What I do is I live in a 3-story building, so I run up and down the stairs in my stairwell. Once you get used to that, you build up your stamina. Pick a number of times to do it. Like for me, it's 20 times. Go all the way up and all the way down 20 times. Once you've built up to that, where that's not much of a challenge, then you put on a backpack, and you can put weight in it and do the same thing with a backpack full of weight. You want to get a really good backpack, something that is really durable and hardcore. Because if you're carrying a substantial amount of weight, like I use 20 pounds, I use a 20-pound weight. If you're carrying a substantial amount of weight, you can go through backpacks really quickly. So I use a company called Chrome. Their bags are like, they will survive the apocalypse and back. If you don't have a 20-pound weight, or you don't have a 10-pound weight, or whatever it is, what guys would do in prison is use things around the house, things in your cell. Like, for example, to lift weights, people would use books. I've seen guys with stacks of magazines, huge stacks of magazines tied together with strips of bed sheets that they would use to curl. If nothing else in your home right now, you can probably take a pillowcase and drop some canned goods from your closet in it and do curls with a pillowcase full of canned goods. There is really no limit to what you can do if you really want to work out. And the reason it's so important is because it does things like, it regulates your body chemistry, your hormones, it regulates your weight, and it also just keeps you from turning into a soft pile of mush whenever you're not going out anywhere, because the softer and you get, the less happier you're going to be with the way you feel, and it's just a cascade effect. I will start talking about in the future meditation techniques, visualizations, ceremonial magic exercises, all things that helped me. And I also really want to just tell you guys stories about things that I've learned along the way. Just because, like I said, my memory is horrendous, and I honestly do think there will come a day when I don't remember very much of the past anymore. And it doesn't bother me, I honestly don't care one way or the other. There's nothing back there for me. There was a guy on death row one time. He was taken over to the death house for his execution. They were getting ready to kill him. And at the last minute, he got a stay of execution and came back over to the prison, came back over to death row. And when I was talking to him, he kind of just brushed it off. He said, when I was over there, when they were getting ready to execute me, I saw my entire life flash before my eyes. But I didn't watch it because it was all a rerun. And he just kind of, threw that off there jokingly. But for me now, that's kind of the way I view stuff back then. It's like whatever there was in that situation for me to learn from, I exhausted it. And I don't look back at it very much. But I would like to tell some stories before I start to forget them. Okay, guys. I hope you have an amazing week. Thank you so much for all the love and support that you have shown me. I hope you're well, safe, and happy, and I'll talk to you soon.